As long as society and civilization exist, so do people's faith in the supernatural. From the ancient Mesopotamians to modern man, humanity has worshipped various gods and goddesses, and held a deep-seated fear of malevolent beings like evil spirits and demons. Hello there, folks. We're back again with another marvelous video. As we were saying, these entities, both good and evil, have formed an integral part of our belief system and mythologies. From tales passed down from generation through word of mouth, to now stories told through films and video games, these myths and legends have endured the test of time and have retained their place in our society to this day. With the advent of the fantasy genre, we have been treated to great worlds crafted by genius minds, which, while distinctly fantastical, mirror our own various aspects. One of them is the usage of myths and religion. Just as we have our gods and demons, so do they. From Tolkien's Middle-earth to Riot's Runeterra, these universes all have their supernatural beings that are far beyond the comprehension of any mortals that dwell there. In today's video, we're going to explore the 10 most powerful gods and demons in the League of Legends and Arcane franchise. We must make it clear right from the start that just because an entity is considered to be good doesn't automatically make it a benevolent being. In fact, you will see during the course of this video that some of these gods are not exactly a blessing to their worshippers. With Riot's Arcane TV show bringing a renewed interest into the franchise from fans of the game and the mainstream audience, Runeterra has never been more appealing. It's the perfect time for one to dive into this wonderful franchise and explore the rich lore and well-crafted world. So without wasting any more time, strap in as we take you on a journey through the mystical world of Runeterra, as we come face to face with the 7 most powerful gods and demons who hold the fate of the world in their hands. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
He's begged for mercy.
Sol Aurelion. When all of creation came into existence, along with it were birthed several primordial entities. One of the most powerful of these beings was Sol Aurelion, the Star Forger. He held the power of creation itself, and he set about filling up the emptiness that lay within the newly formed universe. It is said that there were others of his kind, but Sol was considered to be the most powerful of them all. He preferred to keep to himself, as he was prideful and full of hubris. As Sol set about ordering the nascent universe, he would one day come across a star that had a world orbiting it, which was not of his creation. He saw that the Aspects, who were another group of celestial beings that were self-absorbed and not interested in creation, showed extreme interest in this primitive world. Aurelion, whose passion was to create stars, had created star systems and galaxies across the universe, and couldn't understand the Aspects' fascination. When the Aspects saw him lingering, they invited him to take a closer look at the planet and the crude civilizations that had sprung up around it. They urged the denizens of the world to offer their prayers and thanks to this deity, who had given them their son. Filled with ego and pride on the prospect of having his glory worshipped and praised, Sol Aurelion took on the form of a celestial dragon and entered into the world that would later become known as Runeterra. These people would name him Sol, which is loosely translated to sun in their still rudimentary vocabulary. There, they would offer him prayers and gifts, one of which would be a golden crown of exquisite craftsmanship. Sol eagerly waited for his coronation, as he was captivated by the beauty of the object and what he thought it symbolized. It would barely take him moments before he realized as the crown touched his head that it was no gift. The metal crown clamped down on his head, and the trap the Aspects had so carefully laid for him was finally sprung. They siphoned his knowledge regarding the stars into the humans gathered there, which granted them forbidden knowledge. He was then flung into space, banished from the planet, and put into the Aspects' servitude. Through the use of his powers, the mighty empire of Shurima would arise, as well as the blessed Aspects of Targon. It was his power that empowered the sun disk of Shurima, which was used to create god warriors called the Awakened. For eons, he would be ferried from one planet to another by the Aspects, in order to fulfill their bidding as the stars he created fell into decay and died. As more and more time passed, his resentment continued growing, with his chief goal being the destruction of Runeterra, for it was the place where he was betrayed. To keep an entity of his power forever under captivity is an unrealistic prospect, and so it has been proven with Sol's bonds weakening steadily over the millennia. The previous Aspect of War Pantheon would find out to his peril when his body is destroyed by Sol, when he forces the Star Forger to use his powers to close a void rift. Sol would throw the power of 3 stars into the rift, causing a massive explosion, and the Aspect would be caught in the collateral. Now, the Aspects fear him, as they know the time for his servitude is almost over. Sol gazes at the people of Runeterra as they call him by various names, which are his own, and bristles thinking of his humiliation, and the day when he will be avenged.
Help me!
Fiddlesticks. With a name such as this, it might be hard for some people to comprehend the true nightmarish terror that this creature embodies. Referred to in ancient lore as one of the 10 kings, he is the first of these primordial demons who are more powerful than any of their kindred to have ever existed. Fiddlesticks is so ancient that many speculate that he's well beyond 10,000 years old, and his infernal origins have now been long lost to time. He's the boogeyman whose tales mothers tell their children to make them behave. There are many such stories scattered around the various cultures of Runeterra. Some say that a young Demacian mage summoned an unknown entity older than time, which the world itself tried to wipe from its memory, and together they had vanished into thin air. There are other stories in the Freljord that are told of a creature that rises up from graves that have not been tended, while in Bilgewater, sailors speak of a lonesome speaker standing on a distant island from where no one ever returns. In Noxus, there's yet another tale that speaks of a sad farmhand who the people blamed for their woes and had him fed to the crows. This murdered soul would then return as an evil demon. Evil has many faces, but one thing that is common in all these folktales is that they all inspire fear. Recently, in the hinterlands of Demacia, people have begun disappearing, homesteads seemingly abandoned, and travelers that never make it to their destination have become increasingly common. Many attribute it to the recent rise in tension due to the invasion of Noxus, while others blame mages in typical Demacian fashion. However, the truth is far more sinister, and whether the tales of that young mage we spoke about are true or not, something really has returned to Runeterra, something far more sinister and diabolical. Feeding on the rising paranoia and fear of the world's inhabitants caused by recent events, survivors speak of a shambling horror that resembles a scarecrow and speak the words of its victims. Fiddlesticks is the name given to it, but it truly doesn't have a name of its own. It is nameless, faceless, and ancient. It is a demon that precedes the existence of demons and takes the form and shape of whatever is lying around him at the time. Even demons fear it, and there is no reasoning or deal to be struck with it. Once it tastes your fear, there is nowhere you can escape and no place it won't find you. Kindred. Two parts of a whole, Kindred has walked the lands of Runeterra ever since mortals have known death. Legends tell of a solitary man with pale skin and black hair, who, overcome with loneliness, decided to take an axe and split himself in half, so that he would always have companionship. This being is often equated to the Grim Reaper or even a god of death, and appears to those whose time is deemed to be over. One aspect of him turned into the Lamb, which is a female entity that is said to embody his rational side. She is seen covered in white fur, carrying a spiritual bow, and is said to offer a swift demise to all those who choose to accept their fate. The Lamb seems to be the primary decision-making entity, as it embodies the rational side of things, and is shown to teach Wolf about the reason for people's actions. Since the emotional spectrum is manifested in the form of a wolf, however, she herself seems much devoid of empathy or care. The other half of the Kindred, which embodies his emotional side, has taken the form of a spectral wolf that constantly accompanies the Lamb. Since it is the embodiment of raw emotions, it reacts purely based on what it is feeling and hence needs a guiding hand, which is provided by the Lamb. Anyone who tries to defy their fate and deny the Lamb's merciful arrows has the wolf unleashed upon them and meets a fair, more painful and grisly death. They have a festival named after them called the All-Kindred Eve, where the citizens of Bilgewater have a massive carnival and an event where two individuals portray the wolf and the lamb and do battle to determine the moral compass of the entire city for the year. The contest is rigged to make sure that the wolf always wins, because that allows them to remain their deceitful and violent selves. Each culture has its own interpretation of the Kindred. The Ionians see the entity as a young girl with her beast companion. The Shurima have imagined them as gazelles accompanied by hyenas, and some others see them as a bee and a rose. There are countless such interpretations, and they vary according to the different cultures. Even their names are varied. In the east they are known as Freya and Wolio, while in the west they are called Ina and Ani, to name just a few. One might also assume that any rational being would accept the death dealt to them by the Lamb, as it is more painless, but things are a bit more complicated than that. In certain regions like Demacia, what we spoke of is the norm, with people accepting the sweet embrace of death given to them by the Lamb. But in societies like the ones found in Noxus or Freljord, it is considered a great honor to fight with the wolf and die a glorious death at its hands. Regardless of their beliefs, we are not sure what interpretation of the Kindred these individuals witnessed at the moment of their death. The ancient nature of Kindred is further testified by Fiddlesticks, who seems to recognize him as the Grey Man. As a god of death, it is inevitable that the Kindred will keep each other company for a long time. The Watcher. Most fantasy worlds have to contain some sort of Lovecraftian horror element to them, and the world of Runeterra is not so different in this regard. The Watchers are creatures spawned in the endless void, which is essentially nothingness. Though contradictory that something should embody nothingness, it is this esoteric nature of the Watchers that makes them go beyond the comprehension of mortals, or those who dwell in the material realms. While in the void, they have no concept of such things as sentience and only possess the deep, dark desire to understand the nature of existence that confused them. They sought to invade invade this realm to learn more about it, and in doing so, silence its din and return the universe back to its original state of nothingness. In doing so, they tried to invade through Freljord, but were betrayed by their agents, the three sisters Avarosa, Cyrilda, and Lysandra, who turned against them. But their treachery was unknown to the Watchers until it was too late to stop them. Having found the breach between the two realms, the bravest of the Watchers burst through them, only to find themselves completely disoriented by the nature of the physical realm, which is completely alien to their very being. They were exposed to unfamiliar concepts such as heat, pain, time, etc., and before they could recover from their shock, the same people that they had empowered to be their pawns, and who had used their powers to build an entire civilization, betrayed them by freezing their point of entry, along with them in what is called true ice, plunging the Northernlands into a near-eternal winter. The Watchers are immensely powerful beings, and this method was not enough to kill them, and only served to keep them in partial stasis, though they could not move or use the full extent of their powers. As the power of the 9 runic seals that have kept them entombed began to weaken, and the true ice began to melt, they have, over millennia, begun recuperating their senses. The Watchers have had plenty of time to adapt during their long imprisonment, and have begun slowly corrupting individuals and matters around them to serve their own purpose. These are the void-born beings that have immense power, empowered by the Watchers to further corrupt and destroy all that stands in their way, regardless of allegiance or race. While there is no doubt that they're still more powerful than anyone can actually wrap their head around, and provide a credible threat to all of existence, if they attempt to enter Runeterra and the physical world, they're bound by the laws that govern this plane of existence, meaning the scope of their true abilities gets heavily limited. Lysandra, their betrayer, continues to scour for every bit of true ice she can find to keep her former masters at bay. However, time is running out, and the fate of the world is now on thin ice. Bard. The Bard is a celestial being as ancient as Sol Aurelion, or the Watchers, and dwelt within the celestial city. For eons, he wandered aimlessly through the vastness of space, until he saw the creations of Sol and was inspired by the harmony that existed within them. He had found a new purpose to maintain this harmony, and ensure that the balance of the universe was maintained. Along his journey, he met other celestial spirits called the Meeps, who accompanied him on his travels, and aided him in his great labor. It was they who informed Bard of a world in a faraway galaxy that emanated with its own vibration that was unique to itself. The very nature of this primitive world threatened to spread its discordant energy to the rest of the universe, which in the future could raise some major threats to all of existence. Thus, it was that Bard descended into Runeterra, specifically in Ionia, and constructed his physical form out of the trinkets and cloth from a sham player's cart. He would wander across the land, and his presence is said to have brought great inspiration to those with artistic inclinations. Along with inspiring and bewildering mortals during his journey, he found that Runeterra had innumerable objects of power scattered all over it, including the world runes. He attributed the discordant harmony of the world to these items and began collecting and storing them away, in order to make sure that they didn't fall into the wrong hands. Bard is not so much concerned with the everyday affairs of the world, and hence might seem detached, but this is because his mind constantly focused on the bigger picture. He has foreseen a future where a cataclysmic event threatens not just the physical but even the celestial realms, and he works tirelessly, hoping to prevent his visions from coming to pass. Unlike Sol or the Aspects, he doesn't demand reverence, but is nonetheless held in honor by the people who know of him. It is therefore justified for him to have earned the title of the Cosmic Caretaker, as no one considers all of existence to be as precious as this wandering celestial. Aspects of Targon. The Aspects are celestials as well, but are different from the likes of Bard and Sol Aurelion, as they seem to be more focused on their interactions with mortals. They seem to revel in being worshipped by people, and embody numerous facets of sentience and nature. For example, there are aspects that embody war, sun, moon, and justice. When one of these aspects is killed, so is the concept that they embody as well. However, it is shown that these concepts are embodied in another aspect given enough time. They are beings of immense power and responsible for the creation of the Ascended Warriors, and others of their ilk throughout the history of Runeterra. They dwell in the celestial realm called Targon Prime, not to be confused with Mount Targon, which serves as a gateway to this realm. It is said that when a person of enough willpower and mettle is able to summit this peak and stand before this cosmic gateway, one of the aspects may rain down their powers upon this individual to imbue them with it and turn them into their chosen one. Most aspects, including the aspect of Twilight, can only interact with the physical realm in this manner, and they do so in order to carry out their various agendas amongst the mortals for their own benefit benefits and gains. However, not everyone that is blessed with their powers retains their personality, and often the aspect's essence within them overwhelms these individuals, turning them into mere puppets with little to no semblance of their own being remaining. Others outright lose their mind and become mere husks, not able to withstand the torrent of power that is being poured through them. Despite their seeming uncanny interest in humans, their motives are beyond human comprehension. One thing is for certain: as long as humanity exists, so will the presence of aspects in Runeterra, and they will continue to shape the history of this world, much like they have for eons.
I've been sharpening my claws.
Nagakaboros, known by various names such as the Serpent Queen, the Great Kraken, the Mother Servant, the Deep Voice Below the Waves, and the Great Mother, to name a few. Nagakaboros has been worshipped by the people of the Serpent Isles ever since the first humans migrated to this area. She's the patron deity of the port city of Bilgewater. Her blessings are sought by sailors, merchants, and fishermen alike, and she grants them to people who take their lives into their own hands and live freely. Despite having the frightening imagery of a kraken, Nagakaboros is anything but a malevolent deity. There's not much known about her personality outside of this, other than the fact that she detests stagnation in all things, and operates independently from the other deities of the area. The avatar of Nagakaboros is a woman with green skin and muscular features, adorned with several tattoos around her body. Her clothing is replete with ornate kraken motifs. She also wears a mask that shows off her numerous eyes, with her tentacles made to look like dreadlocks on her head. Despite not having a seemingly cosmic origin, we thought she ought to be mentioned in this list, as she is one of the most prominent deities in the entire lore, who's tied to one of the most important regions of Runeterra. Marvelous verdict. Aside from these entities, there are other demigods and ascended beings that have been worshipped as gods by the mortals of Runeterra. From Volibear and his demigod kin of the Freljord, to Vladimir, the former darkened slave, who lies at the heart of Noxus, and Janna, the wind spirit of Zon. They have all had a great influence in the shaping of this world. The same goes for the demons, but our list was meant to discuss only the most powerful and primordial of these beings. All of the entities we have discussed are at a cosmic scale and far outstrip the names we just mentioned in terms of power, ancestry, and influence. We would have also loved to expound more on the 10 primordial demon kings, but next to nothing is known about them, and we hope that Riot fleshes out their lore in the future, as they make for an interesting topic of discussion. Each of these beings that we discussed is capable of destroying Runeterra just on their own, if they so willed it. We hope that you found this interesting and really helped you appreciate how big the world of Runeterra really is, and how Arcane is but a small fragment of a much larger picture. Thank you for sticking with us right to the end of this video. If we managed to pique your interest, there's more Arcane and Runeterra related content already on our channel, so be sure to go check it out. For now though, it's time to say our farewells. We hope to see you soon in our next video. Until then, stay safe and stay marvelous. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.